Hey there, everybody. I'm gonna try this SureFire Live without the intro, without the 1 minute warm up, because just the way it gets promoted and the way it gets done, it's always the same start. So as this builds, I'm just gonna kind of warm up get going before the people get here. So welcome. I needed to turn my phone on as we build because I still don't get all my messages unless I'm on this thing live. So let's turn that on. Hope you guys are doing all right tonight. Man, it's hot. There's a level to heat that I've never. It's rough. I think as I get older, it's harder on me. But it's super hard on our guys out there. I just heard a friend of mine just told me there's like 100 million people are affected by the heat right now. And I know that I've had a few of my guys actually get heat sickness and almost stroke out. And then once you kind of get that, you can get it easier. You become more susceptible. Hey, Marty, how are you tonight? Nice to hear from you. Hope you're doing well. Hope Chad's doing well. Texas, I mean, we're here in Tennessee. You guys are in Texas. That's got to be another level. And I think next week's even worse. So, I don't need to tell. I'm no doctor, but our thing we tell everybody is drink a lot of water the night before. All the electrolytes I just ordered a bunch of Gatorades and everything to be shipped into the shop, and we're trying to provide that for our employees. And I would highly recommend you do all those kind of things. The safety of your people can't be under talked about. So, tonight, I'm really wanting to talk about my. Let me see here. I gotta make sure this is playing. I want to make sure that we talk about the book Failing Forward. I've got another. Matt Keats says there are power outages right now up north due to the heat, and yeah, I've heard that. Even the Tennessee Valley Authority here in Nashville or here in Tennessee said that to move your air conditioning up to 78 and there could be brownouts. The Tennessee Valley Authority here in Tennessee has dammed up. I mean, in the 60s, 70s. I could be wrong on the time frame, but dammed up like every waterway, every lake, whole Tennessee, all of Tennessee. Everything is dammed up, and all the power. A lot of the, not all power. A lot of the power is hydroelectric, so they've not depended on. I mean, I think it's about 10 to 15%. I could be wrong on that too, but if they're telling us to watch out for power outages, they know. So Marty says it was 110 Saturday. I was at the water park. Definitely have to hydrate. Yeah, for sure. So anyway, be careful out there. It's dangerous. So tonight I want to first talk about the business symposium we just had, the CSI business symposium. We had it at my shop last week. And there was 11 speakers, 12 time slots, and it was some of the best business classes I've ever watched. And I've been to hundreds of those, and I still took notes on almost every speaker. When every speaker talked, if they'd been in business for 5 years or they've been in business for 40 years, you can learn something from everybody. So, if you want to be good at anything, get around the people who are talking about it and getting good at it. And clearly, if you're on this tonight, you're wanting something different. You want to learn something. So, but at that event, let's see, I just made some notes. So we had Chad Murray was there, and he talked about his systems. He's a Connect team, and he's been on here talking before. But even though I've heard him talk about it and watched him do it, he did it again. I learned something. We had Allison Reynolds, who talks about taxes and budgeting, which for me is death on a stick. I hate that crap, but you have to have it, right? You can't run a household or definitely a bigger business without really knowing your numbers, having a budget to run off of. Most people in business run off of what's in the bank account. That's their budget. And if there's a lot of money and sometimes a lot of people do too, they look at their bank account and they're like, okay, I've got whatever number means something to you. And that's how you know if you're doing okay. And in business, in your home life, that's one thing. But in business, you really can't run your business on just what's in the bank account. If you're running your business on what's in the bank account, there's going to be a time when you run out of money. You will just, your cash flow, if you don't know your numbers, you're not spending money on a budget, and if you're not telling your money where to go, it's going to come back to haunt you. So Allison talks about that. And again, it's not my strength, so I have to hire people to help me with that. I have strengths, they have strengths, and we try to stay in our core competencies. Ryan Hall and Alan Rush talk sales, and they've both been on here talking sales, but still, I've heard them multiple times. I learned just one more thing, one more, oh yeah, I've heard that before. I need to think about that again. Tommy Nelms talked about mentorship. He's always so great. Steve Trumbull had a great talk. He talked about the price of admission, which is the crap and the hell you have to go through to build a business, the ups, the downs, and I've worked with him a lot, and it was when he was going through this stuff, I said, it's just the price of admission, man. You don't get to get to a $5 million company without going through the $1 and $2 and $3 million pains. And all of the pain, you have to go through them. Ideally, you go through them faster and with less pain, but it's really common that you have to go through it. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight on Failing Forward. Just some lessons from the book, but lessons in real life and how they look. Because it's one thing to read in a book, but it's another thing to feel it and have to get through it. And it's very sucky. Taylor Hill talked about marketing in a down economy, had some very good points. Chuck Roydhouse talked about how to sell his business. He recently sold his business. He was in the chimney business for a very long time. He built it up to sell it. And he talked about what to look for and how to do that. Jim Brewer, of course, talked safety and a culture of safety in your business. Chuck Hall talked about leadership and growth. And I talked about building your leadership team. The reason I say that is if you didn't make it to the symposium, we're going to package that together and have that available so you can buy the whole package on video and watch it at your leisure. But no matter what business you're in, I think this is very valuable and it could benefit you. So, well, guys, this is a two-way conversation. I've got a nice little amount of people building here, and it's a good night. So let's get to it. One of my favorite books that I ever read was Failing Forward. And I think it was when I read it, probably, maybe 20 years ago, it helped me understand that everyone's thinking about failure was pretty much flawed from the beginning, and pretty much our schools teach us that, you go to school and an A is success and an F is failure, right? And if you get an A, you get all the accolades, and if you get an F, there's something wrong with you, or you didn't do something right, or you clearly have to, you don't know the subject matter. And that's just how a lot of us as adults go through thinking about everything. And what this book taught me more than probably anything was that success and failure, the A and the F, are actually on the same side of the equation. You have to go, and the thing is, if you don't have F's as an entrepreneur, you don't get the big A's either. The problem in entrepreneurship is the C's. When you're just average, when you're just putting along and nothing's really good, but also nothing's really wrong, that is a problem for entrepreneurs, and it's a problem for business owners. And as I learned that and understood that if I could go through failure and learn how that worked and looked, that you get more successes. And that was revolutionary for me 20 years ago. I never looked at it that way. And I bet if you haven't read that book, you may not look at it that way. I think we're teaching a lot of the wrong things in school, clearly about success and what entrepreneurship looks like and what success looks like. I wrote a book in 2015. It came out in 2016 that basically argued that premise. And a lot of people have argued it, that we teach everybody to go to school, get good grades so you can go to college, so you can get a degree, so you can have a good life. It was the stairway to heaven. It was the promise of a better life. And I can still remember going through school. They're like, if you just get a high school diploma, if you get a college degree, you're going to make 5 times more money, or 10 times, or 100, whatever the number was. It was like either go to school, get a degree, get A's in your classes, and you're going to have a great life. Or if you don't, you're going to be flipping burgers or digging ditches. And that was the wrong message, man. That was absolutely the worst message I think we could teach our kids. Not that I'm against education, but I'm against that mentality of it. So, and I bet there's a lot of you out there that feel the same way, especially if you're in the blue collar world. You see how wrong that thinking is. So in the book, Failing Forward, I just made some notes about it. And has anybody else out there read this book? Am I the only one? Again, this two-way conversation. I'm here to talk to you tonight. We've got an hour, and we can talk about anything. I picked the subject, but that doesn't mean we have to stay on it. And I appreciate your time tonight. I don't have a guest. It's just us talking. So I'm here to talk as long as we want to talk. And if we're tired and it's too hot and you want to go back and sip ice water or tea, then go do that, or have one with me and we'll talk business and talk about the world. So I made a note in the book. It was what the main difference between failing forward and failing backwards was. And I thought that was an interesting way to put it, because failing forward clearly is whenever I buy a new business, or whenever we're going into a new business or a new thing, there's a big failure part that I understand is coming for sure. There's a big hammer that's going to come whenever we jump into anything new. And if you don't understand that's coming, you can be surprised by it, that you're like, oh, this clearly was the wrong move. And if you understand the failing forward principles, you understand that that's always the barrier you're going to have to go through, all the failures, all the screw ups. And when I recently bought the powder coating operation that we have, the guy I bought it from clearly doesn't understand that principle at all. And he didn't like that I actually said that was going to happen to us when I bought the business. He thought I was going to ruin the business and run it in the ground because I said, dude, we're going to fail. We're going to trip up. We're going to fall down. We're going to piss people off. We're going to have products that don't work right. We're going to have bad product. We're going to miss orders. Like, understand, I'm learning this business and I'm going to absolutely fall on my face probably. Now, I don't want to, but I understand that fall helps me fix things and helps me understand. So Richard Anderson, hey, Richard, how you doing, buddy? He said he read it. And clearly I think a lot of people haven't. If you haven't, I could not recommend it more. It's in everybody's top 20 business books. It's one of the best things you can do for your life if you're taking any risks, and understand that a lot of people, when they fail, again, failing forward and failing backwards, if you fail and you fall backwards, like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. And I'm like, why would you learn that lesson from it? Why would you? Now, sometimes we do, but in general, if you're going for something you want and you fail, you don't want to say, oh, I'm done with that. I won't try that again. I was talking I had my haircut today. Obviously it's amazing, but she was talking, she'd never flown on a plane. And I said, why? She's like, it's too expensive. And I said, are you sure? And she's like, yeah. I mean, every time I look at something, it's too expensive. I said, have you ever typed in on Google Flights, type in where you are, and then don't type in where you're going, and then just look at the map, and it shows all the cities and the prices, and you will be amazed at how cheap stuff is. But she, at one point, saw plane travel was too expensive, and then just makes these rules up for her life that plane travel is too expensive. Therefore, I'm not going to do it. I can't afford it. So I typed up the app. I said Google Flights, Nashville, and didn't type where to, and hit the map and said you can go to New York for $54. You can go to Las Vegas for $106. You can go to Miami for $208 round trip. And she's like, oh my God. And so I said, well, where are you going to go? She's like, well, I don't know. I'm going to have to talk to this person and that person and make sure it's safe. I said, so it wasn't the money. You have this thing in your mind that it's out of your mind to even do it. So therefore, no matter what solution I had, she had another. She's like, well, my friend's a pilot. I'm going to see which one's safest. I said, they're all safe. There's none of them that are dangerous. But in her mind, she had this failure mentality that one little barrier, one little thing in her brain, and you just can't do it. So therefore I stopped talking to her, because I can't, you can't get through to people like that. If they have a failure mentality, you're wasting your time. And so I used to try to go, oh no, well, let's search other things. I tried to help her once, and then if she didn't want to help herself, you're gonna have to live in that life. I don't live in that life. So on that, so failing backwards is the one where you fail and you quit. Now, don't get me wrong, there's been a lot of things I've had to quit. We started and it didn't work. But almost everything I've done, we started it and made a pivot, and it turned into something else. You're watching something tonight that was a multiple pivot of something that didn't work. We Several years ago, I was in a group of people, and we were always trying to fix the same things in all these different companies. And my idea was, why don't we put this thing together and fix all these things as like a manual and a how-to on the marketing and leadership and the forms and the software, and have buying power as a group, and we get together and do this thing. Well, that didn't work with the group, so we decided to try to start a franchise. We'll put all this money into a franchise and try to franchise this thing and start people on the right foot, was all it really was. It wasn't going to be a world takeover or anything. It's like, how about if we just start people on the right foot, get associated with the associations and the guilds and the certifications and all the right stuff that we knew was the right way to start the business, get you started that way instead of some crazy way. Well, believe it or not, most people didn't want to buy the franchise. We got to about 5 and we're like, this just isn't worth it. But inside that was SureFire. We did not, we built a system to train people, train our franchisees. And we're like, we need a system. And then inside, well, we got that going and our franchisees were using it, but that wasn't the point. I was like, you know what? I bet a lot of people would rather buy the training than buy the franchise. And out of that launched SureFire. And sure enough, that's been very successful and trained lots of people, especially during COVID. And even now, lots of people get their training through multiple failures, right? Through all these different failures, something inside that came out. My chocolate business is the same way. I bought a franchise kind of thing from a guy who sold chocolate at a franchise show. We were trying to sell chimneys, but he was selling chocolate franchises. I bought one of them for Nashville. The guy was a terrible business guy. He was a good chocolatier. He made a good product, but he was basically not truthful, or some people might say a liar. And he was just not a good business person. And it finally fell apart one day when I called to place like a $7,000 order for chocolate. He's like, instead of buying the chocolate, could you buy me this piece of equipment that I need for this big boiler to cook down sugar? I said, you got to be kidding me. He's like, no, I need this to complete your order. I said, oh my gosh, you're about to collapse. I said, if you're asking me to buy you machinery to complete my order, you're out of cash, you're out of credit, and you're about to collapse. And I said, I'm done with this. It was called Chocolate Moonshine. I loved it. Good product. They're actually still out there. He recovered. But anyway, out of that, my daughter was sick of trying to do this in malls, and we had mall locations and stuff. And I said, why don't we just start our own brand, go to school, learn how to do it, do our own thing, buy our own building and do our own thing. And through that, we have Poppy and Peep, not to be an advertisement for it, but if you want chocolate, it's probably the best around. But the point is, it was through another failure. We failed in the original business and it turned into another business. Now, I can't tell you if it's going to fail down the road. It's doing pretty good right now. But at every pivot, chimneys are the same way. In the chimney business, almost all of us started sweeping chimneys. Well, now that's probably less than 10% for most chimney companies. We all kind of kept pivoting into home restorations and appliance installations, but that wasn't how we started. Many of us just kept moving through it and understanding that there's something else here and people are asking us to do different things. So not that even the chimney stuff failed, but almost everybody has had some failures. We just kept moving, and inside whatever you're doing is something else better or something else that can be bigger. at the powder coating operation, I have every month we have a training class, and it was set up by a vendor who sells powder coating equipment. So I have a deal with him where he teaches a class every month on how to powder coat and how to run a powder coating business. And then for me, he provides me with my consumables, my filters, my guns, and all the stuff that we do. And it's a pretty good deal. But I was in there, and one of the guys, he was in car restoration. He's like, man, he was 55. I'm 54, about to be 55. And he's like, I just can't figure out how to grow this business. I've been at it a long time. I just cannot figure out how to grow it. And I said, well, you're the problem. I said, it's you. He's like, I believe it, but I don't know what to do different. I said, well, inside the answers are all inside your business. I said, you do car wraps, you do wheels, you're going to do powder coating, you're doing, tinted windows, you're doing all these things. And in that is either teaching people how to do it, like you're learning from us right now. It is making online courses. It is blowing up each one of those businesses into a bigger business. Maybe it's tinting windows, maybe it's wheel sales, maybe it's car wraps. Like, it's all inside what you're doing. You're just not seeing it to blow it up. And he got very excited, and somebody needed to kind of tell him that it's inside you. It's don't look outside. You got to look in the mirror. And that comes up in one of these things. So number 2 was redefining failure, which I talked about before, which is how you look at failure as a good thing or a bad thing, and what we've been taught about it. And I can just tell you now, failure is fine. It sucks going through it. It absolutely is terrible. There's businesses failing right now because of the economy, because of things happening, and it does not feel good. It only feels good when you get through it and you look back on it and go, I went through that. But when you're going through it, it's terrible. Now, right now, a lot of chimney businesses are feeling this pressure of sales pulling back, expenses going up, cash flow kind of drying up. We're all going to learn from it. You're going to learn from it. You're going to fix it, or you're going to be you're going to be gone. You probably won't be gone. You'll shrink down. It's going to be all painful. But what you should do right now is understand failure is probably coming, and we have to do as many little things as we can do. Like tomorrow, I have a meeting with my chief financial officer and chief operations officer to go through every list. Where are we now? Where do we have to get to? What are the things we have to do to stay on track and not mess it up? And I didn't used to do that. I used to think it'll just come back and be okay later. I know it's bad now. Just keep doing what we're going to do, and it'll be better. It'll all come back and be fine. And I know now, as a business owner, you have to direct your path. You can't just wait for the path to happen to you. You have to be proactive at it. So in this book, he talks about 7 abilities you have to have to fail forward. And let me make sure I don't have any other comments. Not too many comments tonight. I've got quite a few people watching, quite a few, but not too many comments. So I'll just keep talking. So 7 abilities. Number 1 ability you have to have is rejection. And on that, I think I had a note on this up here. Let me see if I can find it. Rejection. Let me see if I can find it. I don't know if I have it right here. Thought I did. But again, I think rejection is clearly part of what we do as everyday business stuff. But understanding, a quick story, my daughter, I don't think she knows what rejection really is, because from the time she was a little girl till now, if somebody told her no, that was just the start of the conversation. She was absolutely relentless when she would want something and then no was the answer. That did not deter her at all. When somebody told her no, she's like, okay, well, what's the workaround? Okay, so you're saying no to this. How about can you say yes to this? How about over here? Like, when she was determined to get something, rejection was not going to happen. I mean, she would resort to anything she had to do. She might cry. She might complain. She might go crazy. She might kind of come at you a different angle, but she would reject rejection like somebody I have never seen. Now, other people, you can just say no, and they just like, okay, well, I guess that's it. And other people don't listen to no is just the starting point for the next conversation. And then I think that should be taught in school too. I think that I don't want to raise kids or men that just are yes men or yes women, and whenever something happens, they just say okay. I want you to. I think what you should be taught is when somebody tells you no, you shouldn't be, I said no, and that's the way it is. It should be, come at me with a different argument, or come to me with a different reason why I should say yes. Like almost a negotiation should be taught. Now, sometimes no is no, and that's how it is. But in general, come to me with a different argument. Come to me with a better argument. Come to me with more thoughtfulness. Come to me with something to help me win too, as the father. Like, tell me why I should just part with my money. Like, we should teach our kids to respect authority, but also don't just say yes or just listen. I don't mind a little bit of an argument. I don't mind a little bit of a questioning. And sometimes they're right. Sometimes I didn't think of something. And I think that's a better lesson than rejecting rejection. I think is a very big one that you need to learn as an adult or a child. Don't point fingers. My good friend Cliff Slagle, they always have that saying, you point fingers and you got three fingers pointing back at you. And he was military, and he's like, not the way I point. I point like this. So he never had. He always pointed fingers, but it was all of them facing you. But in that, it's always you. It's always, your life is you. It's not the president. It's not the economy. It's not, I mean, yes, those things can affect you 5%. 95% is the person looking right back at you. That's the person who it's the same with like stock market and budgets. Like, people go crazy on stock market. It's crashing right now. But the majority of your money is not the stock market, whether it goes up 10 or 20% or down 10 or 20%. It's what you spend every day. Your budget is what has come through your fingers, comes down, and you either close the gaps or you let it go through you. It's your spending that changes your life, or it's not the stock market. It's not the president. It is, gas prices will affect you, but that's not the main thing that's going to affect you. It's either you need to be more effective at making money, or you need to be better effective at budgeting or spending money. Those are the main things that affect you. If you point fingers to other people, you've just given yourself a pass to not do anything. And that is never the answer. Chad Murray says, feeling the failing every day right now. We went from winning to not closing recently. And so have we, Chad. Yet the appointments are coming in. Funny thing is, for us here in Texas, that's been the same at this time every year. Mindset shift to getting everyone to show more value in our bids, more personality, start winning again. We will, because we always do. Love that, Chad. And man, we've got a sales meeting this week, and our sales numbers, closing percentages are down. Our revenue number is down from this time last year. It just is. It's almost half of what it was. And so that's disturbing. And what's the reason? But to your point, Chad, a lot of people are feeling this. And whenever you make gas prices go up and crash the stock market, you're going to get people going, well, I don't know if I need that chimney repair right now. I might wait. Or I might get a fifth or sixth estimate and find the cheapest. And to your point, Chad, showing value, showing why you want to, work with your company clearly are always good tactics. But you do have to slow down. And I say it all the time, sales covers up a lot of sins. And so when you're selling a lot and you're going fast, you don't need these little bitty tactics, because everybody is buying. I can look back 6 months, a year ago. We're talking about, man, you could put any number on any job and everybody is going to buy it. And I can tell you for sure, we said, you know what, this isn't going to last. It just can't last. It won't last. And it's starting to come home to roost. You know what? It's okay. It almost has to happen. It just feels bad when you're going through it. We will make it. We will make it through it. We're America. We always do. But it's going to be a course correction for sure. See failure as temporary, which is perfect for what we just said. Failure is almost always temporary, and so is success. There's a saying that the rent is due every day. And so success, you have to keep doing the things to keep you successful, or it will go away. And you got to keep doing the thing. And if you're failing, you need to probably change course a little bit, but it's also temporary. Um, it's always a result of what you're doing on a daily basis, but you can't control everything. There's times when I can definitely control the phone ringing, and there's times I could spend $1 million and the phone doesn't ring. And there's times I don't have to do a dang thing and the phone rings off the hook, and you feel like you're a genius business person and a genius marketer, and it has nothing to do with you. It's just the tide is going up or the tide is going out, and you just have to kind of hang on to it. Set realistic expectations. In your ability to fail is the expectation of what you can and can't do, what you can and can't control. Like today, I got a couple people on light duty. Had a guy that has arm surgery, had shoulder surgery. I have a girl that's an intern, and man, we're just going through the warehouse. And while we're busy, that warehouse is getting extra this, extra that. This job didn't go through, so that thing is sitting there. And I said, your job today and for these next 2 weeks while you're on light duty is to sell out of here more than it cost me to have you here. So eBay, Facebook Marketplace, like all this stuff that we don't need and can sell, like tools that we don't need. Like there's just a lot of gathering of things that now that we have time to look at it, I'm like, I want all this gone. I want everything out of here. I want to take this moment and freaking step back. And so their realistic expectation was make me more than you cost me. It's a simple expectation, but they understood it. They're like, I said, I need you to sell out of this warehouse more than it cost me to keep you. That's your goal. And so it was interesting. As she's a young girl, she's like 16. And she's like, yes, sir. I understand that realistic expectation of me. Okay. So focus on strength. I think this is a good time to, take inventory of what you're good at, take inventory of what you might not be good at, and maybe drop some services, stay focused on what you're really good at. I think that for us, there's always a couple services that, like we don't like to do. We don't like that, make that much money at it, but it's kind of busy work. Like for us, it's dryer vents. Dryer vents have never been an awesome thing for us. But some companies, that's all they do. That's their main moneymaker. We just never have loved it. So again, I saw a funny thing on Facebook. Somebody posted it that this guy was going to make a business just out of doing estimates. I don't know if you saw, but it was hilarious. The guy said, you know what I'm going to do? He said, I'm going to make a business out of giving estimates, not free estimates, but, say $40 estimates. And so I'm going to make the estimates so ridiculous and so high that nobody will hire me because I don't want to do the work. I just want to give estimates that I get paid for. And I think if I can do 10 a day, making $400 a day, giving estimates, I think it'd probably be worth it. I thought it was hilarious. It was so funny that he didn't want any of the work. He just wants to give you an estimate. That's ridiculous. I think there's a lot of guys out there like that. Okay. So a couple more on number 6 was vary your approaches to achievement. Vary your approaches. So I think I talked about that before, how almost every business we've had to change and vary our approach to come out being successful. And sometimes you might be going through that right now. Chad's talking about some things he's doing that he's going to vary his approach to get a different result. The worst thing you can do is just keep doing the same thing. I remember in 2008 when this happened, I was in the office, but a lot of my guys were out selling. And next thing you know, they're like, hey, we can't sell anything. People aren't buying. I'm like, really? Wow, this is terrible. Yeah, homes aren't being sold and bought, so we don't have inspections. All these reasons why people weren't going to buy. I'm like, guys, and they weren't selling because we were doing our same approach, our same method, emailing estimates and not presenting on the spot. And we weren't changing anything up. So we were getting that result was just doing this. Well, I had to lay everybody off. In 2008, I had 17 employees. And I went back down to working by myself. And I then had to go out and start selling and talking to people. And almost instantly, everybody was buying everything again. So it was me getting out back in a truck. I had my 14-year-old son riding shotgun with me, and sometimes my dog. And we just got out there. And pretty soon, I had more work than I could do. and I was actually subbing some of my guys I laid off back for cash. Like, hey, can you go fix these steps? Hey, can you go fix this wall? Hey, we got a chimney to fix. And I just sold my way out of the recession. And about 6 months later, I started bringing everybody back, and we never have looked back. But I had to change my approach. Well, because I was forced to change my approach. I hadn't paid myself in 6 months. I hadn't paid my rent. I hadn't paid my marketing. Like, the last thing I was going to do was not pay my people. My people always got paid to the detriment of everything else. Everybody's check always got cashed and always worked. But that was a tough promise at the time. But I learned a million things from crashing the business. I learned a million things from making it go south on me, and a million things of what not to do. So it's not that I don't want it to happen, but I know we'll learn from it and we'll be better on the other side from it. When these things come, we fix things, we get better, we change our approach. Number 7, bounce back. That's the story that America loves. That's the story that people will buy into. That's the story that gives you credibility, is your bounce back. It's not your downturn. It's not everything going bad for you. It's your bounce back. And so understand, people know that it's going to happen, and people want to hear about it. And that's kind of what makes you or breaks you, is your bounce back. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing pretty good. Got some pretty good comments. Got a good audience. Just everybody's mostly just listening, so that's totally fine. I like this quote. There's a couple really good quotes, but change yourself and your world changes. That was in the book, and again, I think that's where reading comes into play. Reading books and listening to books, watching things like this. But you have to change yourself. If you want a different life, you have to change yourself. That's how your whole world changes. Your world is your outlook. Not completely, but mostly. If you want to, and it's mostly stuff you have to stop doing. Like, if you want to lose weight, you have to stop eating so much, and you have to stop being, staying home, and you got to go to the gym. If you want to save more money, you got to stop spending money. If I want to stand up, I got to get out of this chair. I got to give up sitting down. I got to stand up. Like, it's almost always something you have to give up to achieve something else you want. So if you want money in the bank, you learn how to make more money, but also learn how to spend less money. Like, it's almost always you changing and your world changes. That's how it works. If you think you're going to be an activist and change the world, it's not going to work. If you want the world to change, start with you. There's a great piece, Jordan Peterson does this, about this person says, hey, I'm too small to make a change. It's better for me to be an activist on climate change and tell everybody else what to do. And he's like, well, what do you practice? Like, do you practice all the things you want everybody else to practice? Or is it just easier for you to keep your life going and complain to other people to do something? Which do you think has more impact? And the truth is, for your life, it's what you do. It's what you see. It's the change you see in yourself. I've talked about this before, but it's like a Japanese parable, I think is what it is, where this little dog is beside the guy. And it's one of my favorites because to me, it speaks volumes of exactly how this world is a reflection of you. But this little dog is a little happy dog, and he's like super happy and he's running around, and he sees this house up on this hill, and he runs into the house. He's super excited. He runs in there, and it's 1,000 mirrors pointing back at him. And he's looking around, and there's 1,000 happy dogs in there. And he's like, happy dog, happy dog. Everywhere he looks, there's a happy dog looking back at him. He's like, wow, this house is amazing. He runs down and tells his owner, this house is amazing. I love that house. Can we go to that house every day? I love it. Same scenario, little mad dog, grouchy all the time, growls at everybody, hates everything, runs in that house, and he sees 1,000 angry dogs barking at him and growling at him. And everywhere he looked, somebody was looking at him and hating him. He runs back to his owner. He's like, that house is terrible. I never want to go in there. It's nothing but mad dogs. And that's a bad place to be. That's what your life is, pretty much. You get what you give. And it's totally reflective. If you want the world to change, I highly recommend reading books. I'm close to 1,000 books right now, reading and listening to books. I'm a completely different person. I started reading when I was 35, so 20 years of reading, probably somewhere in the 50 book a year range, and sometimes more. Listening to books, sometimes I was listening to a lot of books at a time, but yeah, I mean, just imagine a book a week. How differently if you read a book a month, and you have 12 books in your brain, and then in 5 years you got what, 60 books. How different would you be if you really did that? I remember talking to somebody, and almost everything I could refer back as a book or something I read, and like, man, you read a lot. I mean, how else are you going to have confidence in this world? How else are you going to really grow a business and lead people if you don't know what the heck you're talking about and you're not aware of all these things out there? When you start reading a lot, you see commonalities and everything. You know the stories, you've seen them, you know where it came from, you know how these things happen, you know why they happen, and then you have more confidence in the world about how everything works because you're well read, you have knowledge on how things work. And it doesn't happen at once. It's like going to the gym. You read one book, nothing changes. So you go to the gym once, nothing changes. But if you start doing it every day, and I'm saying go to the gym because I just started back at the gym. My neck's healing up good. I'm back, but I don't expect to be in shape after one book or one day or a week or a month. I mean, I know I'm giving myself 6 months at least to start feeling like I'm in decent shape. And if I stay on it, probably after a year, I'll be probably in shape at my age. Now, it used to be I could work out for a month and be in shape, but not these days. It's a long process, and you also don't want to get hurt while you're doing it. So anyway, that's how books work. That's how changing yourself works. It's not one workout, it's not one book, but if you want to have a different outcome, that's my best advice is to do that. A couple more things. Make sure you aren't the problem. My gosh, if you're a business owner, you probably are the problem. If your business isn't doing what you want it to do, somewhere in there, you are the problem, or your thought process is the problem, or your lack of something is the problem. I consult with a lot of business owners, and it's hard for me to tell them that, hey, it's you. It's very hard if the business owner is the one that's sick, it's hard to make the company better. But there's some telltale signs, I think, if you're the problem. One, the business actually is stagnant and doesn't grow. You've tried, but you lose everybody. I go to a lot of the conferences, and a lot of the companies stay the same size year after year after year. And if you want that, that's fine. But if you're trying to get something different, but you can't get it, it's you. At one point, I was a certain size business for a couple of years. We're stuck at this one size. And I knew it was me. I knew I was the bottleneck. We were at a certain size, and I just looked, and I knew that I was out of capacity, and I actually didn't have the knowledge to get big. I needed somebody else to help me grow the business. I was the problem. And so I literally had to hire people to get out of my own way and force myself to step back and be better at delegating and not saying yes to everything, saying, no, I don't do it, but that person does, that person does, that person does. And man, I'll tell you, the better I got at getting out of the way, the faster we grew. And we grew millions of dollars per year, every year, once I kind of got out of the way. But I watched what was happening, but I don't get in the middle of all the little things anymore at all. I can't. Like, I was at my powder coat operation, and this guy that I was talking to about starting a business, he's like, hey, I've got a question. Where do you get your chemicals to, do that etching process and that phosphate and all those things? Where do you buy those from? I said, I don't know. He's like, what do you mean you don't know? I said, it's not my job in this business. My job at all isn't to powder coat. It isn't to order materials. It's not to know where we get all of our powder, or even barely know the customers. I don't know hardly any of our customers. He's like, well, what do you do? I said, my job is to take care of these people in here. See all these people right in here that are working? That's my job. My job is to make sure they got what they need. My job is to make sure they got plenty of business, and they got good leadership. They got direction. All that other stuff is going to be handed off to somebody else. My job is to take care of them. And they know that. I will never, they don't go, hey, Mark, can you powder coat this? Hey, Mark, can you jump in the tow motor and move this stuff? They don't, they know that's not my role and they don't want me doing it. In fact, if I am doing it, well, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a guy at the business symposium, and I was talking to him. I said, how is your gas business? The, gas logs, if you're not in chimney business, gas logs, gas appliances. He goes, well, it's okay. But he said, it's not doing as well as it should because I failed the test. Oh, Jeremy, you're on here. Okay. I'm calling you out. Sorry. It's a good story, man. I hope you got from it. And I wasn't going to say your name or anything, but to me, it jumped out to me as kind of a mindset thing. And he said, well, I failed the test and, so I need to go through that and get better at it. And I said, why do you have to do it? He goes, well, I want to be the guy that knows it. I want to be the expert. The guys will be, I want to teach other guys too, but I want to know what we're doing and how we're doing it, which makes total sense, right? That's nothing. It's nothing wrong with that, but it's also the things that hurts him. And he said, and thank you for saying this. He said it's perfect advice, much needed for sure. So, and here's what it was. I said, well, why do you have to know that? And he gave me the reason, but I said, well, that's not your job. And really, I asked him how old he was, and he told me. I said, man, you got to be in a hurry. You learning to be an expert on everything you want to do as a company, well, absolutely, you'll be the bottleneck. Like there's no way you can grow very much. And he does want to grow. And he's a very, very smart guy with a good business. But this was one of those moments where you actually don't realize you're in your own way. In your brain, you're like, yes, this is the right next move. I will learn this to do this. So I said, man, I don't know how to powder coat. I don't know how to do metal fab. I know how to do chocolate a little bit because I wanted to, but I really don't know what we're doing now. I don't know how to do HVAC. I don't even know how to run those cameras now on our chimney trucks. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to use our iPads and fill out all the forms anymore. Like that's not my role at all. And I want everybody else to be great at it. And I take care of you and make sure you've got what you need. And I think, and I think it obviously he said it was good advice because I just I want him to think differently about all those moves. Because if you're the problem, which I promise you almost always are, you just need somebody to point it out to you. Hey, you're the problem. Hey, you're this. You're the reason. But a lot of people won't, especially your employees. They can't. They can't say you're the problem because they can lose their job or they don't want to be on the bad side of you. They won't tell you. You need business coaches. You need mentors. You need people looking at it from the outside saying, do this, stop doing that. And, we've talked about mentorship quite a bit, but like John Meredith and several other of my mentors are really good at telling me straight, hey, stop doing this, start doing that. And why don't you look at it this way? And it's changed everything about how I run businesses. And it's how you run multiple businesses and multiple successful businesses is you get the heck out of the way. You don't you don't become the expert at anything other than running businesses. So last couple things, build your strengths passionately. So in the business symposium, Allison, who's amazing at budgets and all the accounting and CPA stuff, I hate that. I hate that stuff. I just want to take this pen and jam it right in my eye, right in my temple. I cannot stand it. When people talk, it's like chewing glass. It's like I bite this glass and start chewing it up. I hate it. Therefore, could I do it? Yes. Could I learn QuickBooks? Absolutely. Could I absolutely learn how to enter everything and do every line item and have all that right? Absolutely. Why the heck would I do that? Because she's not doesn't like doing what I do. So my whole thing is just staying in my lane and sharpening my skills more and more. And when I do that, I know how to do fewer and fewer things. I remember watching an interview with Barry Manilow one time, and Barry Manilow said, I don't know how to do anything except write songs. He said, I can play this piano and I can write songs. I don't know how to change that light bulb. I don't know how to do anything. I can't cook any food. I can't do my laundry. I don't know how to mow grass. I can't start a lawnmower. I don't know how to change oil. I literally can't do anything except write songs. I can do that better than anybody. And man, when I listen to him say that, I'm like, dang, that is a focus that you need. Whenever I watch business guys changing their own oil on their trucks or fixing their house, like redoing their own kitchen, I'm like, why are you doing that? You can pay these guys and go make more money doing what you're good at, or you need time to relax at home. Like, why are you doing the work? Like, again, I have almost everybody do everything, and I'm saying that because I was the guy that did literally everything. Of course, I mowed my grass, changed my own oil. I mean, learn to change the starter in your car because you had to. But as soon as I didn't have to, I didn't. As soon as I could hand it to somebody else and stay focused on what I did, I got really good at that. And Chuck Hall spoke at this event. Chuck is the master at delegation. That dude doesn't do anything. I mean, I say that, but he does nothing but run one of the biggest chimney companies in the U.S. He's really good at, great, you do that. Great, you do that. I need you to do this. And that, to some of us that do work, it feels like you're being lazy. But then you understand that's exactly what you have to do. And they need a job to do. If they've come to you, they need you to give them work to do and give them direction. So get good at that. Last couple things. Rodney, 100%. Let's see here. Matt says the Berenstain Bear books don't count. Right. You're right, Matt. Those don't count. Matt's one of those guys. He's been with me a very long time. Actually, he's my longest term employee, but he's also a friend of mine. And Matt is always learning. Now, sometimes it's painful to watch him learn, and sometimes it's painful for me to help him learn, but he's always appreciative and he's always still learning. He's on here tonight, and he very much knows this and knows me inside and out. He knows probably what I'm going to say before I say it, but he's always looking to learn, and he's always grateful to learn. And yes, the Berenstain Bears, you need to switch your books up a little bit. But we recently did Extreme Ownership, and Matt read the book and was all about it and was very much part of our conversations. And he's learning. And again, it's not something that everybody teaches you to do, but when you start doing it, you start seeing the world a little bit differently. I'm going to end with this. I like this quote. Not pursuing what you want is a problem of motivation. Not achieving is a problem of persistence. I say this a bunch. I've been in this business now 37 years, and people are like, oh, well, look at it. And I can look backwards and it all makes sense. But looking forward, you can't see it. And I can tell you at every step, it had to be persistence. For some reason, this dang chimney business kept working, and I stayed persistent at it. I didn't give up on it. And through all of the stuff, we failed forward through all of the problems. When you come into my business, you might see a pretty mature business, but you didn't see the million failures and the million problems and conversations and issues. Now, like Matt, he's been with me through a lot of it. But if you think about it, Matt's been with me 15 years. I was in business 22 years before I met Matt. Like, I had failed all the way up to meeting Matt, and he's been with me failing for 15 years, but failing forward. His life's been better. My life's been better. Our systems have been better. There's more freedom. There's more opportunity. But yeah, there's still problems, and we understand we're going to go through these to get to the next group of failures, next group of problems. But now we have to embrace it, right? That failure is absolutely the next thing we have to accomplish to have a better life, to have more freedom, to have more influence, to have, and if our business is protecting people and protecting homes and protecting lives, then why wouldn't you try to grow a business that services more people to do that? Why would you try to stay small when you could be bigger? Why are you trying to not service, if you could service 10,000 people a year versus servicing 300 people a year or 500? Why wouldn't you, if you really believe in what your mission is, why wouldn't you figure out how to grow the business? Now, you've got your own reasons. I get that. You say, hey, I don't want to do it. I don't have the energy. I want to do this. I want to do that. Totally fine. But in my mind, once I understood what my real goal was, which was to service as many people and help as many people as I could, how do I build that business that does it? If that phone's ringing off the hook and people are begging for my service, how do I say yes? And our powder coat business, Wes, that runs it, his whole mentality that basically I taught him is your job is to figure out how to say yes, not figure out how to say no. How do we say yes to more people? How do we service more people? How do we serve more people? And then that's how we have lives that we can have what we want in life. And a lot of times that's giving back to people. Like, it's one of my favorite things to do is figure out how to give back. I mean, that's what we're doing tonight. But it's through persistence, and it's through staying, and most importantly, it's through failing forward. All right, guys, that is our time. I got, hey, Sarah, she says, love it. I've always been the yes person and trying to do it all. I'm working on my delegation skills. Yeah. Lots of great information. Thank you, Sarah. And Sarah, you know this, but you impressed us with your ability. Sarah's been with the CSI for a long time, and she's one that steps up. And again, she steps up. She's seen failure. She's seen success. She's right there being persistent and learning and getting better all the time. And then Rodney Bailey says, serve people first. Awesome. Hey, guys, good. It was a great night. I hope you guys stay cool out there. And I will be gone a lot in July. I don't know if I'm going to have a replacement person for the show. Maybe Alan will do it. Maybe Jim. Maybe Jake. But maybe not. I have a cool opportunity. I get to go ride motorcycles over. We're flying into Germany, and then we're doing Germany, Austria, Italy, and Switzerland in the first couple weeks of July. I booked this thing 2 years ago, but because of COVID and you couldn't travel, we couldn't do it. We kept postponing. Well, finally it's going to happen. Super exciting. So we get to do a 2-week European amazing motorcycle trip that one of my goals for the last 15 years was ride a motorcycle all around Europe and see all that. And it's finally coming true. So I'm pretty excited about that. And that's about to happen. So, We'll do SureFire Live for a few more weeks, and I'll be taking a little break. We may have a replacement. Please watch. If not, I'll be back probably 1st of August. So, all right, guys, that's our time. Have a great night. Stay cool out there. We'll talk to you soon.